welcome, welcome. Hi, Ashley. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm lovely, Jessica. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm in sunny
Awesome.
Florida. I cannot complain.
So amazing. We don't have sun today in San Francisco, but that's okay. We've had it for quite a few days. So I'm just grateful that it's warm and not snowing like it was on the East Coast earlier this
It
week.
was. It was snowing in New York like just a week ago. Insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Crazy. Mother
So,
Nature, man.
yeah, I'm being very careful with the words I use. I said insane, and I'm like, is it insane? Because this week's theme is words and language, and we have a bit of an interesting hack of the day that also links to your topic today. So for those tuning in, we're going to be talking about language. We're going to about talking about the hack of the day, which is we do not know the meaning of no. So that opens a whole can of worms. And then we also, Ashley has chosen the topic of who gets pleasure
Whose pleasure
first,
comes first.
whose
Yeah.
pleasure comes first. So that's the agenda today, along with any questions you may have on live. So if you're on the backstage area, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on the Q&A section on the Zoom call. You have Q&A, you can ask your questions or just your comments on the chat, as well as on Facebook. We love to see those hearts pop up and any comments you may have. All right, take it away, Ashley. Where do you want to begin?
Well, some people are probably thinking like, why is she talking about pleasure at this time? Like we're in a pandemic, and this is such a topic that has come up so many times, where people are like, oh no, I have to be fear bound and this and that. And I'm like, no, we all deserve to have some fun. Like with all that's going on, are you actually taking care of this part of your life? Are you actually allowing yourself to have some pleasure? And pleasure comes in a whole spectrum, right? So take that for what that's worth. But it's really easy for people to neglect pleasure during a time like this. And, they might feel trapped at home, or they're worried about their finances, or suffocated with a partner, or, you know, longing for connection of someone who's on the other side of the country. And the thing is, like, we all deserve pleasure in a time where there's so much uncertainty and where there's so much pain. And so that's why I wanted to bring this up today, because the more pleasure that we experience, it actually has like a health benefit for us. And I'm happy to share those. But first, I just want to give you an opportunity to just comment. Let me know what your thoughts are on the initial, introduction of the topic here.
All right. So please head on over comments, add your comments on my, you know, personally, Ashley, I think it's so crucial. We were talking about it with Ed yesterday, our panelist on health and fitness. And it totally links where we were talking about, instead of adding, like changing your diet or completely drastically changing your habits, that's usually not very sustainable. Where
Right.
as adding things that make you feel good, right? That's what I like to, that's part of pleasure for me. It's like what makes me feel good, then I will do more of. So for example, instead of saying, oh, I've been super unhealthy, what about saying, you know what, I've been sleeping really well, I've been drinking water, I've been taking walks when I walk my dog. I'm so happy to be in Florida where it's sunny, and when it's warm weather for me, I actually feel happier, feel better, and I don't get sick as often when I'm in warm weather. So just focusing on those things then encourages me to be healthier, to do healthier things, and instead of just looking at all the ton of chocolate I've been eating, or the unhealthy snacks I've been eating, or there's a Burger King right across the street where I'm like, I'll just quickly get something. When I used to never eat Burger King. I mean, really? Right? Focusing on the stuff that's good, and the more, and he also said, if you feel good, you do good. What do you think about
It's
that?
so true. I agree. If you feel good, you do good, right? The more that we have and enjoy pleasure in our life, like to add to Ed's perspective there, is it does lower our stress hormones and the cortisol levels. It boosts our immunity. Obviously being out in the sun is going to help with that too, but it also helps with our hormone balance and our overall resilience. And it makes us feel more connected to others. Now, what I would say is that enjoy the chocolate. If you're going to eat the piece of chocolate, don't let that little devil on the side of your shoulder telling you I shouldn't be eating this chocolate. Rather, enjoy it, feel it, like allow the chocolate to melt in your mouth. Notice the flavors, notice the creaminess, like really get juicy into feeling that pleasure. Because when we do, like it amplifies our whole experience. So yes, enjoy it the same way you do the sun. Now, enjoy it within reason, right? Don't eat chocolate for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I actually went and got a croissant from my favorite French pastry place the other day, and they gave it to me with chocolate. And I'm like, well, I don't eat chocolate for breakfast. So I said, thank you. And I got a different one. And I just enjoyed it. Like, I know it's sugar, butter, and dairy and all stuff that I don't normally eat with a predominantly plant-based diet, but I enjoyed the pleasure of it. And so I would just say, like, really allow yourself to look for those moments of gratitude, like you said. And if you're going to do something, like, give yourself the challenge of how much pleasure can I really enjoy in this, whether it's a back rub from a partner, whether it's eating a juicy piece of watermelon. I actually created a little thing for myself that I ended up deciding to share on my site, but it's like 30 ways to escape the prison pandemic, the pandemic of this prison that we're in, or whatever words you want to use. And it's 30 different ways to explore and enjoy pleasure. So there's so many different things that we can do. I would just encourage people to start actually asking themselves, what brings me pleasure?
So you said
and how much pleasure
you did
can I
like a
enjoy?
worksheet on that?
Yeah.
Ooh, is that something we can have access to?
It is. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So how do we
Yes.
get access to that?
So I have it on my website. It's on the bottom of my website, ashleydeprizio.com. So I can just post a comment or a link there. And I can see if I could just get a copy that we could just upload into the Hack Mankind site too. We'll see which one we can make work. Yeah.
That's such a beautiful gift. Thank you so much. And Ashley, one
Yeah.
of the things, so your topic does say, whose pleasure comes first? So here it's like, it
Yeah.
insinuates that somebody comes second. So can you tell me a little bit more about what you meant by that?
Yeah, absolutely. So with that one, what I found, especially talking to my sister, talking to my friends who are moms, talking to people who are caregivers of their parents, talking to significant others, so many people are putting everyone else before themselves. So my question is, like, do you put other people before you? Do you put your partner's pleasure first? Now, I can say for basic needs and all of that, but I can also expand the question of, do you put your partner's pleasure first in the bedroom? Like, do you even know what brings you pleasure? Do you know what your partner's pleasure buttons are? I mean, I can kind of take this topic as G to rated G as we would like to, or rated R as we would like to go with it. But the real question is, do you put other people before you? And what is the cost to you? And if you are putting others before you, are you also finding ways to fill your own pleasure cup as well? And if you're not, then I would highly, highly, highly recommend and invite you to start an exploration into some sort of pleasure practice for yourself so that you can support others. Because otherwise, it's like the analogy on the airplane. You can't help somebody else if you don't put your oxygen mask on first. So do the same with your pleasure practices.
So could you give us a little hint of like what because some mothers that are listening to this, like I have a couple of friends in mind and family members would be like, okay, yeah, Jessica, easy for you to say. You don't know what it's like. It's just like, you've got this free life. And, when we're online and doing these webinars and not a public figure, because that's not what I consider myself, but still I put myself out there and people think I have this like perfect life and perfect thing. And so they're like, yeah, it's easy for you. And they may say the same for you. Yeah, Ashley, it's easy for you to say. You've been studying this for X amount of years. You don't understand. I have all these responsibility. I have all these kids. If I don't make the food, if I don't do the laundry, if I don't do this, if I don't do that, nobody's going to do it. So it falls on me. So thanks for all this theory, but yeah, it's not applicable. What's your reaction to that?
So yes, I understand. Two, you are blessed with a beautiful family. You chose that. That is what you wanted. And now you've got the life that you desired. Because believe it or not, all your choices have your life is based on all the choices that you've made. And I will own, for me, I've made some choices. There are some things in my life that I don't love. So it's time for me to make some new choices. So I would give them a little bit of tough love to say, like, you are not a victim of your life. You made the choices. You created this, because we are conscious. We are creators. The second thing that I would say is, okay, if you don't have an hour, if you don't have 30 minutes, if you have 15 minutes while those kids are sleeping and you can sip on your coffee, enjoy every sip of the coffee. Feel the warmth, smell it, notice how it tastes on your tongue, let it roll down your throat. How does it feel in your body? Get really present, because the way to find pleasure and a way to find that momentary break or moment of grace is to be really present. So if you're doing the laundry down in the basement, take 5 deep breaths for yourself. Take 2 minutes. The family is going to be just fine in the 2 minutes that you spend down there. And if that's all you can give yourself, have the compassion to say and the empowerment to say, I'm going to give myself these 2 minutes of breath work while I'm doing laundry. Or I'm going to run my fingers through my hair and just give myself a head massage while I'm doing laundry. Or I'm just going to give myself like a little muscle massage and just feel my body and remind myself I have a body while I'm doing laundry, or while I'm, in the kitchen cooking dinner. Put on some music and move your hips and allow the music to flow through you. Like, there's ways to incorporate it with all the other stuff that's going to happen that has to happen to run your household.
That's such a good point, Ashley, where one of the things that pops into my head is this concept and this notion that I am a fan of, which is net time. No extra time, net time. Net time is when you are in the car and listening to an audiobook, or you're at home, like you were saying, even in the shower, just like visualizing like this beautiful light coming, depending on like if you're spiritual or not, whatever it is. That's one of the things I do, like the visualizing the light and cleansing, and like that feels so good to do that. And it's in the shower. I have to take a shower anyways.
Right.
Affirmations inside my head while I'm brushing my teeth in front of the mirror. Or although I do like I'm really good at the whole feel good stuff. So I like to take baths. I like to take extra time. So I like not net time, no extra time, and I like some extra time too. I think it's empowering not only to myself, but to those around me. As an example, if I look at, I don't have kids yet, but my niece, when she's with me, or my niece, she's my cousin, but she's like my niece, she's little. And I inspire her to take care of herself and to be happy and to also stand up for her needs. It doesn't mean being selfish or, self-centered, but it's, and those words are a little bit interesting too, to explore. What are your thoughts on selfishness and self-centeredness?
I was so ready to like pick on those words, actually, that you said that. And we're talking about words this week. Somewhere along the line, our own self-care started to be called you're selfish and you're self-centered. If you're taking time for yourself, especially as a mom, which again, I'm not a mom, you're not a mom, but we know plenty of moms. They have this mom guilt that everything should be about the kids. But here's the thing, like, we as humans, we were humans before we were individuals, before we were moms, before we were wives, girlfriends, partners, whatever else we become, employees, sisters, daughters, whatever. Like, we are individuals, and we have every right and are just as deserving and worthy to take time for ourselves. Life isn't meant to be come here, work hard, suffer a little bit, look for a momentary minute of grace, and then die. Like, life is about growing and learning and experiencing what life has to offer. So it's not, my thoughts are, self-care is not selfish and it's not self-centered. Honestly, like, I would love to say, and this is probably going to piss off some people, but like, by not spending time on yourself, by not giving yourself a moment to ground, to really take a look at your life, to have that extra moment in the shower or whatever it is, you're actually being selfish. Like, I'm almost getting riled up. Like, I almost dropped the F-bomb of like, you're being selfish because you're just attaching things to other people that don't need to be attached there. It's like you're making it so much about the other people that you're almost becoming this martyr or victim. And so have the self-compassion, have the self-respect, have the self-love to give yourself self-care. And it doesn't mean it has to be 12 hours a day or an hour a day. Even if it's a moment, it's necessary. And it's something that we all, men, women, children, whatever, however you identify, like, we all deserve that self-care time. So it is not selfish. It is actually selfish to be a martyr and a victim instead. That's what I have to say about that.
I'm glad I brought it up.
Yeah.
I am so glad, and I'm taking notes. And like, I want to make sure to save that little clip for later. It's so powerful, and it's so true. Like the power of words, as you're saying, it's kind of the topic for this week: language and words, and the labels that we put in. And you know, some of our panelists, I think it was Ed again the other day, like he took a cup where I could just say, you know, this is a room key, this is a key. Well, actually, it's not a key, it's a card. But it says card, but there's so many different kinds of cards. There's business cards, there's room cards, like a key. And then there's different keys. There's like, you know, different types of keys. There's pink keys, different colors. But we need a language. And I love how he always turns things around where it's like, we're not being judgmental of what is. We also need to use things when they work. For example, labeling works. And at times we got to be very conscious of how we're using these labels. And so it's been a great reminder throughout the whole week. I consider myself somebody who's been in the field and doing this work for a while. And still, I'm just like, the language that I use can always improve. And the perspective that comes out of it is pretty incredible. So today's hack, I really want to touch base on that. I'm conscious of the time, is, and this was so Peter, our founder, as you know, is very business oriented, right? He is our business panelist. He's been successful in business and excellent mentor in that area. One of the things that his hack of the day, so the founder's hack of the day, is no means no, or does it. No can mean so many things. And then I thought about it on the context of this call. Like, ooh, that opens up a can of worms too. Yeah, so tell me what you think, because you also have the business experience and you have this more, you know, and today we're talking about feminine empowerment. So yeah, we may talk about it in terms of sales, but there's other ways that a no can be expressed. So what's the nuances there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the nuances there, it's really about context. It is really about context, like, and the depth of communication when it comes to interpersonal relationships. If it's work related and even some interpersonal stuff, I would say if someone says no, it might just mean not now. Like, hey, honey, do you want to take the trash out? No. Well, it could just mean, no, I don't want to do it right now, but that's that little subtlety in the words, right? Or, hey, do you want to watch a movie? No. Do you want to take care of the kids? No. Not now. So it could just mean not now. But when it comes to then like couples, relationships, bedroom activity, right? I mean, there's this we could not cover in 8 minutes that we have here. But when it comes to the intimacy part of pleasure that we were, talking about, that is really important to set a container. And in that container, no actually has to mean no. A yes can turn into a no, but a no will never turn into a yes. And so for men or for women, or I try and be all inclusive, but for however else you identify, no in the bedroom means no, literally means no.
That's why people use code words, right? Because it's like,
exactly,
like red or whatever it is, because it's a lot clearer. Yeah. So
yes, exactly. And that's the purpose of setting a container. And this is something that I have recently learned in the erotic coach certification program that I just finished, is this importance of container setting and what we want to do, the time frame of it, like what's a yes, what's a hell yes, what's a no, what's a maybe, and really being clear. And that all comes back down to communication and the words that we use. So from my perspective, if we are talking about pleasure in the bedroom and we are talking about the word no, make sure you set your container and communicate and set a really tight container so that in this container, no means no. Now, Another day, another week, you set a new container. What was a no may become a maybe or a yes. But you have to be very diligent about the context and the container that you're in. So much like juiciness to dive into here that we just don't have the time for.
Well, if you say in other
But it's
areas,
really important.
so in that area, I mean, it's pretty, for me, it's like, yeah, I get that. But in other contexts, like, you know, as a relationship, I don't know what you would say. I wouldn't say expert. I wouldn't really say coach. Relationship panelist.
There
Personally,
you go.
I feel like no can be so, like, it's so interesting. Like, no when you're asking somebody out on a date. No when you know, it's instead of saying, well, it's too soon, right? Like, I've been like experimenting with the whole date thing, and it's really interesting. Um, like, you have some people that chat at the beginning, some others it's like, okay, let's get on a phone call. I'm like, no, not yet. Like, and I'm very clear communicating that, and it's easy to do that. Some of my clients have a harder time communicating, so it's just no, and then it could just shut the whole thing off when it wasn't really a no, it was a not yet. Or, so there's a relationship part, there's a business side too. And then what if you, okay, no can be a maybe, but what if it's really a no and you keep insisting? Then it's really a firm no. Like, what are the nuances there in terms of women at work? Like, if we look at the feminine empowerment side, like, are
Mm-hmm.
they, because we're such complex creatures. Like, I feel like I wouldn't even know for myself.
So I would say that if someone says no, it is a no until that human decides to make a change. And so, you know, there's the nuances of language, right? And the languaging patterns. And some women being complex creatures. If they're just getting out of a relationship and then someone asks them out on a date, it's like, no, not now. Like, I'm not ready right now. And so it's either being very diligent about the language that you use, and maybe it's preparing yourself, like knowing the kind of situations you're going to come into. What are my boundaries and what do I want to say? So for your clients, it's like, well, in this context, it's a no. In this context, I want to be prepared to say, not right now. And that's all you have to say, or yes, or whatever other answer you want to have. In the workplace for women, I think it also depends on the context too. What is the question being asked of you? If someone asks you out in the workplace, that's a really complicated, it can be really complicated just based on company policies, but also, is it done in a way that you feel respected and safe, and how does that come across? That's something that, again, there's like, we could do like a separate hour on each one of these topics, but I think the point is for each human and individual to really take a moment and pause and ask yourself, check in with yourself. What is my true answer? What are the words that would best represent how I want this to go? Is it not now? Is it no? Is it another time? Is it, hey, that's really nice of you, but I'm not interested? And then on the same token, for the person who's receiving the no, I really want to kind of talk about this, because with some of the things that I'm working on and people work on in sales, this is big for salespeople. When someone tells us a no, in the past, I used to make it personal about me, but it's like, no, it's actually not about me. I'm trying to sell, and this I started using for myself, maybe like the last couple weeks. When someone tells me a no, it's like I'm trying to sell them, you know, cupcakes, but they want to buy Girl Scout cookies. And so all they're saying is, no, I don't want cupcakes. I want Girl Scout cookies. And you don't have Girl Scout cookies, so I'm just going to move along. And if I can just relate to the no as something that silly, like I don't like chocolate cake. So every time I say no to someone, I'm just like, oh, they're offering me chocolate cake. I'm not going to feel guilty about it because I don't like chocolate cake. So I'm just going to say no, thank you. And just like simply thinking about things like that takes away the charge of like, oh my God, this person told me no, there's something wrong with me. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. He doesn't like me. I'm too fat. I'm too skinny. Whatever it might be. It's like, no, it's just, you don't know all the nuances of that other person. And so you're offering cupcakes, but they want chocolate chip, or they want Girl Scout cookies, right? And that's it. Move on, move forward. Don't dwell in that past, because now that moment's gone.
Oh, that's so spot on. Personally, I hate. Yesterday, I was on a judge panel judge. I was a judge on a panel. I don't know. Anyways, you get the point. And it was a sales like pitch. Like people were doing. There's talking about their product, and then the other person would too. And then we had three judges, and we each had to, give the goods, the like areas of improvement and what they did really well. That I can do super well. But then I had to grade them, 0 to 10. Oh, that was so hard because I had to grade one and then the other one had a different grade, and it was just so like it was so intense. And that energy was right. But if I say, well, it's chocolate cake, you were supposed to make vanilla cake. It's chocolate cake,
Yeah.
so you get, it's still a cake. So guess at 5, and that energy would be totally wrong. Instead of like, oh, you didn't perform well enough,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's like, no, I'm judging the result, not yourself. And so, and seeing it in myself, which means that I'm also very sensitive to it. So that's spot on. I love the analogy of like, it's chocolate cake. We ask for vanilla cake, and no, thank you.
Totally. And it might be, and then there, right? We ask for vanilla cake, but also think like the best baker in the world makes this decadent chocolate cake with this drippy, gooey, warm stuff on the side, and that's a 10. But this person made a chocolate cake that came out of the easy bake oven. Well, there's a little bit of a difference. So the easy bake oven cake is probably going to be a 1 or a 2. And then the chocolate cake is this like decadent, best chef in America makes it, and everything in between. And then that way it's just information, and that's it. And there's no charge to it. There's no, this person's better than this person. And it's really just a matter of the quality of the cake that was delivered, and that's it. And whether or not you want it. And if you don't, that's okay.
I am so grateful for that analogy. I think I will use it and reuse it, and I'll remind myself with that. So thank you so much for sharing. And if it's helping me, I'm sure it's helping so many others too. Oh, Ashley, I'm so conscious of the time. It's already been 30 minutes. Oh boy.
So
Any
fast.
final thoughts before we head on to the rest of the day?
I would just ask everybody to take a moment and ask yourself today, what would bring me pleasure? And just enjoy that moment of pleasure. Because in this world right now, the pandemic, the pain, you know, our purpose with Hack Mankind is to bring hope to people. And one of the ways of bringing hope is for each of us to be responsible for our own pleasure. So my invitation is to take a moment for pleasure for yourself and maybe discover something new that you haven't discovered before.
Yes, and I'd love to hear all your comments below on how it is. And when we're talking pleasure, for those just joining us right now live, Ashley was talking about, it could just simply be, give yourself a hug or a little like massage, or just take a few deep breaths while we're doing laundry, or whatever it is that you can do to just feel good, to really feel good and give yourself pleasure and prioritize that. I think that's one of the big themes of this call is prioritize yourself. If you don't, you're actually being selfish, which is totally contradictory to what society tells us. Thank you so much, Ashley, for today's call. Amazing content, as always. Life hacks that are life-changing and just super easy to apply. That's what I love about Hack Mankind and you and all our panelists, is that it's simple, applicable hacks and tools and content that we could just, stack. And then before we know it, after like a month of doing this, we're totally shifted. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you next week. Make
Thank
sure
you
those
too.
tuning in, if you didn't listen at the beginning where I mentioned, make sure to tune in www.hackmankind.com. Just put in your email address. I'm not sure that next call will actually be on Facebook. It may be on our website. We're doing Hack Mankind 2.0 that will soon be released. So make sure that you are on www.hackmankind.com, put your email there, and you continue to still have free access after we upgrade a bit our platform. So thank you so much. Thank you, Ashley. And we'll see you on our next call. Take care.
Thanks, Jessica. Bye.
Bye.